We are back for another edition of the Stochastic Hall of Fame, first one of the NFL season. And my God, do we have a lot of submissions. So many to the point where we actually have to split this into two Hall of Fame videos. Jordan Klein working his magic behind the scenes. We'll get this one out on social and on shows, and then we'll have another one on Monday. So if you don't see yourself, now you know why. And if you don't see yourself because you're not in the Hall of Fame, it means you're probably not rocking the Stochastic avatar. And all you got to do to get involved, go to stochastic.com/HOF. Download one of those beauties you see on the screen. Use it wherever it is you play. And when you place top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF, preferably with a nice message. And the screenshot has to be in there as well. You can win gold, silver, bronze, a beautiful ring in a spinning display case, completely engraved to commemorate your big win. And you can win multiple times every single year. So if you're not doing it yet, grab that avatar and get going. Here we go. And we kick this week off with 4 Ring of Honor recipients. The Gronk of Golden Valley. Still can't believe this is real. Huge shout out to Loughran and Greg for putting me on this lineup right before lock. Wouldn't have binked it without the goats. Yeah, Britton Covey season, baby. $101,000 for the Gronk of Golden Valley. And as if I recall correctly, 2 Stochastic avatars up top in that millie. And Barry, of course, my biggest DFS win comes on one of the sports I know least about. Sometimes not knowing names, but numbers instead works to your advantage. Just make sure there's some damn good numbers. 20K for the jaded one in tennis. How about that? Jackson Blake, shout out to Stochastic for the great tools and data they provide. 50K for Jackson Blake. Huge, man. As baseball continues on. And Tommy Stokey, too. Baseball season ain't over till it's over, but it can be over now. See you tomorrow, football. Go Titans. All right. 25K for Tommy. 4 Ring of Honor recipients and a ton of gold members as well. That means 3-time wins, no matter the entry fee. As long as it's top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and you're rocking the avatar, you're getting the month of Sims Max All Access, $550 value, like Chuck Jones here. Got the elusive first place with a Sunday lineup only the Sims tool could have produced. $2,000 for Chuck and another $2,400 for Elway's Army. The guy's crushing, stays crushing. You guys are the best. Thanks for all your help, and the Sims are crushing. Brett Lindsay, I will take it for my first try at college football. This one counts, correct? Yes, it does count. You are into the gold tier. And so is Andrew. I believe this will be Stochastic Gold. Now to use those Sims to chase that platinum tier in NFL. Huge. Dion O'Neal, Friday Night Fun with single game top 3 finish. Gold tier for Dion O'Neal. Gold tier for Ugly 8 game. Another victory on a massive field mini-max. The data tools and staff at Stochastic are the best in the business. Sims Max is the way to go for success. We enter the silver tier as well. This is where Ugly 8 game was before that last one. Had a few more wins to wrap up the golf season, Jazz Razz season, and one of them qualifies for Stochastic Hall of Fame just in time for football. Thanks, guys. While I'm at it, I want a smaller field MLB entry. Thanks, Josh Engelman. Cleandre Hood, the Sims, for a nice second place finish. Congrats to you, brother, and to Kendrick Jones. So close, but yet so far. I'll take it. $300 to Kendrick Jones, and in the bronze tier. And Twin Boy DFS, Jermaine 22, a few days late, but thanks to Stochastic and the lineup generator for the win. Can't wait to use the additional tools. Hell yeah, 1,000 to Twin Boy DFS. Corey Hansen, shout out to the Stochastic Sims. Finished second in the MLB Minimax. Wasn't first until a Xander Bogaerts single in the 9th, but good enough still for my initial Hall of Fame induction. You have been inducted, Corey Hansen. And how about Hemi? Same with him. Finished top 3, sending email now, hoping to get a free month of NFL. You got it, brother. Like I said, doesn't matter what the entry fee is. Top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and you have made it. And he didn't chop as well. That was in a, was that a showdown? Maybe not. Yes, it was. It was in a showdown. AJS, 1281. Great summer using Sims for MMA and MLB. Looking forward to football. 5K to AJS as well. And Casey, thanks for the tools to get the winning side to start the college football season. And Woody C, day 1 of college football Sims were a success. First in one mini-max and second in the other. Great work by the Stochastic team and Matt Kajeski and Jason for getting the Sims ready for the season. Felix, thanks for your great Showdown top plays data. Stochastic helped me take down one of the DK dime packages. Charlie, phew, glad I decided to enter in afternoon. Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Live Before Lock show. Yeah, Patriots, Jets, barn burner football tonight. This is sometimes the best type of showdown slate you're going to get, though. So we're going to dig in. We're going to have some fun with it, and we're going to try and win some money. Dave Locker, Greg Ehrenberg. What's your shirt say? Miley? Is that a Miley Cyrus shirt?
No, it's a Mickey. I actually like the shirt a lot. It's cool. It's Mickey Mouse.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mickey Mouse, and it's in Japanese. I saw it. I got it at the mall at some point. That's where I do a lot of my shopping. I just meander through the mall, like, oh, that looks cool, and I buy it and I wear it. And if I'm on shows and people respond to it in chat, then I'm like, oh, I should keep wearing this.
You a big Disney guy?
Sort of. I mean, I like Lion King and the animated movies and whatnot.
Okay. Mickey Mouse?
Actually, no. I just like this shirt.
Well, happy to have you guys with us. If you haven't done so yet, take a single second, atone for your sins this afternoon, this evening, maybe afternoon for you. Show us some love. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We're less than 1,000. We're like 900 away from 100,000 subs. So for those of you that are just stumbling upon this, as Greg would do a Mickey Mouse shirt in the mall.
Oh, yeah.
Hit that subscribe button, please. And thank you. Did you see the t-shirt graphic someone made for us on the show? Someone messaged us in the show this morning, the strategy show with Matt and me, and said, you know, like, if there was an atone for your sins shirt, I would buy it, right? Like merch that we had. And I was saying, all right, sure, but you got to also put the can of tuna on a sleeve or something for Matt. And dude, it's so good. If you'll see it, you'll see it. Jordan has it too. He can pull it up, but it is so good. It is real good. Look, I look like a cult leader. You see that? Not bad, right?
All right. Yeah, you do. You look like one of those guys you'd be in a documentary and they'd be like, and then 16 women went missing, and then your picture shows up.
Yeah, exactly. Jim
It looks
Jones
like they photoshopped the lion's mane on your head.
Someone did that a long time ago. That picture's been floating around. It might have actually been Fletch who made that. I can't remember. Someone did that a while ago. It was really funny. And then just reused it for that. But it's a perfect image for the saying. Anyway, suppose it's time to talk some football here. Dig in a little bit. You know, I'll tell you, on Monday we had the whole Britton Covey situation.
Yep.
That's that's something that doesn't come around all that often. But I do think this is one of these slates where you can make some kind of executive decisions on your own, because it's week 3 and there's still a ton of question marks. You know, you're not going into, just to set the table here, right? For those of you kind of jumping into this game and this slate for the first time and weren't with us this morning, it's not one of those games where you go, all right, fine. It's the Chiefs who, you know, generally speaking, Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, if he appears, or, well, you know, like a healthy Chiefs team, or some of these other teams where you just kind of know where the ball is going and at least know who their number 1 and number 2 target share guys are. Sure, with the Jets you do, but with Garrett Wilson, but you don't know about Mike Williams, who played 18% of snaps in week 1, then 65% in week 2. So does Lazard come down? You don't know about Braelon Allen, who saw nothing in week 1 outside of garbage time, and then serious fourth quarter work in the red zone last week. And then with the Patriots, outside of Hunter Henry, who you could argue wasn't used at all in week 1, and then 12 targets in week 2, the whole receiving core is a total mess.
And then on top of it, don't forget as well, with the short week and all these players on the Jets, like Mike Williams coming back from the ACL injury, how does him playing on a short week, how does that impact his workload? Breece Hall even. We saw Braelon Allen really involved on Sunday. This is a game where I think that oftentimes the potential blowout is overrated in terms of how frequent that it might happen. But this is a 6.5 point spread. It is a possibility. If the Jets are up 15, 20 points in the fourth quarter, is Braelon Allen the running back? Is Breece Hall the running back? So I do think that the game being played on Thursday night on short rest has a really big impact. Even like somebody like Aaron Rodgers, if the game is out of hand, do the Jets want Aaron Rodgers out there in the fourth quarter in a lopsided game? I think that's something else that's going to potentially play a factor.
Absolutely. And then just that dirt cheap price on Tyler Conklin. So Yeah, we'll see. Have you been getting these comments, by the way, like on Twitter? If I post something like, okay, so I went live on this show. I'm live on Twitter, right? With the show.
Mhm.
I've just been throwing them up there. People want to watch there. And then these people, these I don't even understand these bots, but this one goes, going for the Patriots for tonight's game.
Yes.
Let's see some big plays from Tom Brady and co. All right, that's one. Let's see some big plays from Tom Brady and co. And then there's other ones that clearly, I mean, they're very clearly bots because where is it? All right, here it is. So so you'll say you're building the lineup out, or you're built like you and me building lineups or something, or a showdown strategy show, and then it's go Patriots, excited for the showdown against the Jets on Thursday night. Let's make some great picks in DFS this week, and then just hashtag it. I don't know what is the point. What is the point of this? There's
So
no naked pictures. If that was the case, I'd click.
so the naked pictures thing, I understood because that was the thing where it's like, all right, here's some guy who's running a scam and there's just enough idiots who are willing to send money to somebody where it just exists.
Oh, I'm
The
not clicking on the link, but I'll surely click on the profile.
the only explanation that I have for these weird bots that are popping up is that it's something that Twitter's created to up engagements and just make the platform seem more just involved and there to be more like engagements and people on the app because I don't see another way this makes any sense. Like there's no way anybody else would be profiting off this other than somebody who just wants there to be extra accounts and extra engagements on Twitter. Like there's no other benefit to it.
That's what I mean. I don't understand it. It's not drawing anybody towards the site at all. It's definitely grok, right? It's got to
Could
be
be.
talking about Tom Brady and stuff.
Yeah, the Twitter AI Grok or however it's GROK, however it's supposed to be pronounced. The first one I ever saw was over the summer. I had tweeted something about Patrick Corbin being terrible, and all of a sudden I get these replies about how good Patrick Corbin is. I'm like, what the hell is this? Before I realized it was like some sort of bots because I'm like, and then I'm like, why is there a Patrick Corbin bot? Who's made Patrick Corbin bots? And then it started happening with other things, and I realized that it was something else. But it was,
Okay.
yeah, it's very weird.
All right, let's go. Rance said Mike Williams hurt every other game. Well, I hope not tonight, Rance. I hope not tonight because I like him. This will probably be one of the stands I take. Just entirely willing for this to go poorly. 100%, not only willing, Greg, I shouldn't say it. I'm 100% expecting this to go poorly, but I'm okay with it as a matter of fact, because I don't think there's any guarantee whatsoever that Alan Lazard is the guy. He's essentially the same price as Mike Williams. Clearly, like Garrett Wilson is the top pass catching option, and I love him today. And Breece Hall, of course. But Mike Williams just feels like one of those guys that goes, relatively underowned, and nobody wants to play a guy that's only seen one target on the season, despite ignoring the fact that he ran a ton more routes last week. Lazard ran less than usual, and he was out there for 65% of snaps in only his second game. What if they ramp him back up? And the Patriots coughed up 300 plus passing yards to Geno Smith last week. So while they're definitely a good defense, they're not elite. There are some holes here. This is one spot that I will take a small stand on, get over the field on Mike Williams today. I'm going to see if I can get ahead of it.
Yeah, so I'm on the other side of that. Like I understand the case for the potential upside for him, but I'm also seeing the potential downside of him where it's not just it goes back to what I'd said at the top of the show where he missed most of last year with the torn ACL. And he's been very limited to start the year. He was limited in training camp. He was limited in week 1, was ramped up a little bit in week 2, but was still limited. It's hard for me to see him playing a bigger role this week just because of the injury history and that he's only had a few days off because it's a short week. If this was a Sunday night football game and he was low owned, I would feel totally different about it with him having normal rest.
But you think he plays less snaps than last week?
Comparable or potentially less, just because of the short week. He got a significant knee injury and he's had 3 days off.
I could see it. I will say, though, he didn't miss any practice this week either. So we'll see. Either way, I get both sides of it. Not telling anyone to make a specific call outside of the fact that this is kind of one of those spots where I could see it being, beneficial if I end up being right. And sure, you could say the same about Alan Lazard. You could say the same about some of these Pats pass catchers. The problem I run into with them, though, is that the matchup's brutal. DJ Reed's back, right? So you've got a healthy Reed, you got a healthy Sauce Gardner, and that's a problem. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that they're not going to produce at all. But I saw something that like Jacoby Brissett has the second fewest passing yards for starting quarterback through the first 2 weeks of a season ever, or like since the Super Bowl era or something. 121, 149 passing yards in his first 2 games. And now we anticipate him coming out and kind of and bucking that trend against this Jets secondary.
It's not likely. It's not very likely. I mean, I'm looking through my lineups now because I was rerunning the Sims because we got an ownership update right before the show. And this is probably going to be in line with what the field is doing, but this is like as heavily skewed towards one team that I can remember for a showdown slate that I've built lineups for. And like, there's a part of me that's like, I feel like I want to get more exposure to the Patriots, but then to what you were saying before, Lofty, like, I can't figure out who the hell I would want to play from the Patriots in any kind of meaningful way, other than like Ramondre Stevenson, like, all right, he's kind of an obvious one. But I mean, for like lower owned Patriots players, I'm trying to figure that out right now as I'm doing some of my ROI boosts and changing around lineups. But it's really hard because we saw like rumors that Polk is going to start getting more work. I think that that's potentially one direction to go, but it's still a brutal matchup and it's hard to feel good about the passing game. For multiple reasons, the Jets defense, all the different equally shitty options in the passing game for the Patriots. And then Jacoby Brissett has been terrible as well.
He's been bad. And they haven't necessarily needed him, right, in these games. I mean, they could have used him in that overtime game against Seattle. Also, this is also a Patriots team that they're not only playing on short rest, but they played extra football on Sunday, Greg.
Yeah.
I get it. It's not, it wasn't like sudden death NHL hockey game where you've got, it just goes endlessly until it's over. But still, you're playing additional football on Sunday, and now you play on the road in a divisional spot on Thursday. Sean, thanks for the super chat, brother. He said, everyone's always focused on offense and Showdown, but I want to talk defense. Bentley, Mosley, Jermaine Johnson's out. How much do these injuries matter to you? Where can the matchups be exploited? Thanks. Great question. Perfect timing. I was just going to bring up the Mosley injury. I said this morning that I think Robert Saleh had some gamesmanship going on there. Like, there was just no way Mosley was going to play on short rest after being carted off the field last week. There's just no way. And he's out. Look, he's their cover linebacker, really. Like, he's a guy that does cover in the passing game. I think it benefits Hunter Henry. The problem I have in a spot like this is that Hunter Henry's not cheap. Like, Hunter Henry's $3,600 more than the next expensive Patriots pass catcher. So, Sean, I don't know. The way I kind of see it is, yes, I think it's impactful and I think it benefits Henry. Does it benefit Henry enough when, you had four guys either questionable or out for this Patriots offensive line? 2 that were questionable are playing. You have 2 out, right? Left tackle and left guard. So the left side of that offensive line is going to be backups today. I think it clearly benefits Henry more than anybody else. I don't know if it benefits him enough, Greg, for me to be getting there heavily today.
Yeah. So one of the things too about defensive players when they're out, it's kind of here. If you guys play other DFS sports, here's what I viewed as most similar to. If somebody in baseball moves up in the batting order from like the 8th spot to the 6th spot, it matters, but it's not so significant that it's going to like crazy alter my exposure. Like over the course of 150 lineups, does it mean maybe I have a couple more shares of Hunter Henry? Yeah, maybe. It's also, keep in mind, like that stuff's all going to be taken into account in the prop market as well, where Hunter Henry, maybe his prop changes by like 1.5 yards or 2 yards or something like that. It has an impact. but it's so minuscule and it's hard to know how it's going to matter in the big picture that it doesn't massively change how I build my lineups.
And our projections heavily factor in the prop market from sharp books. So we still have Henry projected at like 8.3. I think he's viable. I just don't like, okay, if Henry were 5,200 today, he'd be one of my favorite plays. It's just, what is he, 78, if I recall correct? Is he 7,800, Greg?
Yeah, let's see. Hunter Henry.
78.
Yeah, 78 in the flex.
It's not cheap. And he's kind of in like he's actually in a dead zone, right? Or a no man's land type situation, because you have 7,800. The next closest player above him is 9K Brissett. And the next closest player below him is $6,200 Mike Williams. So there's nobody even comparable in that price range. It's just Hunter Henry there.
Yeah, I'm looking through my lineups right now. I don't have very much of Hunter Henry. I think the biggest issue is due to that price point. And just tinkering around with some stuff too, where as we're talking about some of these Patriots pass catchers and trying to figure out how I want to prioritize them relative to their ownership. And I think I'm going to land on Polk as being the guy for me. He is, if you remember, the reports in the offseason were that he was expected to be the number one wide receiver for the Patriots this year, but rookie, also the passing. It's a small sample size with the passing game. There's been like not very many significant yards gained. There haven't been a ton of passing attempts by the Patriots. So don't really have a massive sample size for what their passing game is going to look like this year, other than a pretty good educated guess it's going to be bad. But my gut feeling for the rest of the year, and then it's also based on some of the reports we've heard in the past, is I do think ultimately Polk ends up being the number one wide receiver. And if there's any players we don't have to worry about their workload for on a short week in this early in the season, it's a rookie who should be as fresh as any players can be at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's just, again, I keep going. Like, yeah, you're going to have to play probably some pass catchers for the Patriots if you're playing a bunch of lineups, but there's nobody that I feel particularly good about at all. At all. Chris asked, do you think Baker plays any snaps? What would you put him at for projected snap share in a game like this, Greg?
Who did he ask about?
Javon Baker. Because I'd probably put him around, say, maybe 15% of snaps. He played 9% of snaps last week, 0 in week 1. Even if you're projecting him up, maybe 15. I can't see him getting much. I can see it, but I can't project him much higher than that.
Yeah, I would assume not really any much different than what he's seen so far this year. If I'm going to project somebody to be a riser, it would be Polk. It would be Polk. Baker's going to play, but he's certainly not any kind of real priority for me.
Yeah.
I don't have any lineups with him.
And Eric said Patriots have 6 active wide receivers tonight. Yeah, it's a shit show, dude.
Yeah, and no good ones. No,
really. El Negro Loco, what's up, brother? Shout out to myself. Loughran and Greg are cool too. Is that what you're wasting your 42-month membership super chat on? Come on, Ron.
Shout out to me.
Yeah, Charles. Is fading quarterbacks with 2 defenses in GPP too risky? No.
So on Aaron Rodgers, I tweeted this out. No, I know nobody saw it because it got no engagement. So this is going to be breaking news to a lot of people.
It's just a roll of the dice on Twitter at this stage of the game.
I never tweet about fantasy football. I just responded to something last night about fantasy football and it has 300,000 or 400,000 impressions now. And then I was like, oh, I think this is an interesting stat on Aaron Rodgers, which is more in line of things I talk about. And nobody gave a shit at all. So yeah, to your point, it's total two-faced flip of the coin. You don't know what's going to show up and pop in the algorithm. Aaron Rodgers, do you know the last time he threw for 300 yards, Lofty?
Let me take a guess. Week 16 of 2021.
You're pretty much right on. He has won an MVP award more recently than he's had a 300-yard passing game.
When's his last time?
It was December 12th, 2021 against the Chicago Bears.
Wait a second. Hold on. Am I right? Was that week 16?
I think you're either right or you're off by 1 week.
That was a total guess.
It was a very good guess.
I didn't see
I know
the
tweet.
date. I didn't see your tweet either. Thanks to Twitter.
You nailed it. That's exactly when it was. So per the question of Aaron Rodgers not being in a lineup or for Jacoby Brissett not being in a lineup, I mean, we just talked about how anemic the Patriots passing game and Jacoby Brissett has been to open the year. In this matchup, yeah, you can make a very strong case to not play Jacoby Brissett. And then Aaron Rodgers, at this point in his career, there's zero rushing upside. Fair to say that?
No, there's some.
Really?
He had 35 rushing yards in week 1.
He's very immobile to me when I watch him. Like, I don't think there's real significant...
I don't think it's anything like it once was. All I'm saying is he did run 7 times for 32 yards with a long of 16 in week 1. Let me put it to you this way. He still clearly has more rushing upside than Aaron Rodgers, if that's what you're getting at.
No. I'm saying Aaron Rodgers has no rushing upside.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Brissett.
No, Brissett already.
Oh,
like,
no, Rodgers. No. Rodgers, zero of rushing upside. Totally.
Okay, yeah. You made me pull up Rodgers' numbers because, like, there's no way I watched that.
No,
game.
he had like -1 or something.
Yeah, I'm like, he's got like cinder blocks attached to his legs at this point. His hair doesn't move at all. So it's easy to make a case to not have a lot of exposure to Jacoby Brissett. And then as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, the reason that I brought up the passing yard numbers, so he hasn't had a game with 300 passing yards in 3 years. He has no rushing upside either. So for one, I don't want to play him in the captain spot at all today. But then even in the flex spot, I want to be underweight to the field on Rodgers because there's no rushing upside. He's dependent on volume passing. And that's just not, he's more like a game manager, I think, at this point in his career, which I don't mean as a knock against him. I think he's going to be fine in this role for the Jets. I just don't think we're going to see those Aaron Rodgers games where he's like 350, 400 passing yards on the regular. And especially not in this matchup where I just don't think it's going to be necessary. Maybe in a game against the Dolphins or the Bills that are really high leverage games later on in the year. And maybe then the Jets might have to lean on Rodgers more. I don't think this is the matchup they really have to lean on him. I think they're going to be cautious with him. So I have no problem at all with building lineups that don't have either of the quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, well said. I totally agree. 100%. When it comes down to it, you have a guy that can't run and then a guy that can't pass. Okay. So the other thing about Rodgers, like, okay, I'm fine with Rodgers in the flex, but if I'm going Rodgers in the flex, then I want it to be like, it has to be Garrett Wilson or Mike. This is for me. You guys do what you want, but for me, it has to be like Garrett Wilson or Mike Williams captain. I don't even like Lazard there because I don't think there's big play upside there. Right. You see what I'm saying? So at least like if Mike Williams pops, let's just say I am right. If I'm wrong, it doesn't matter anyway, because it's going to be really hard for Rodgers to be optimal, even in the flex at that point, unless it's a super low scoring game. But if Mike Williams pops, then that means that Aaron Rodgers almost certainly is padding those numbers, right? Like Mike Williams can buoy the numbers for Aaron Rodgers. A lot of these guys can't. So if I'm doing it, like I need to have, there's no way I'm single stacking Rodgers and one receiver. I can't see him getting there unless it's like a 3 touchdown game to one receiver, which in that case, then I'll just eat it. Fine. But it feels like it has to be a multiple pass catcher spot. No, like Lamar Jackson +1, Jalen Hurts +1. And there are some cheap options though, like Conklin is down there. There are ways to do it, but I think flexing Rodgers or captaining Rodgers, you have to be very specific about how you're doing it.
And one other thing that I'll add about Rodgers and who you stack him with, Breece Hall, totally reasonable stack partner with Aaron Rodgers. Breece Hall, you saw last week, it was like a 25-yard touchdown pass that he had just running a go route. So Breece Hall is very capable in the passing game. And it does look like that the Jets are going to be playing not maybe like a ton, but at least a decent amount of Breece Hall and Braelon Allen together. We also saw some of that on Sunday. So Breece Hall, you could consider him not quite like Alvin Kamara, but kind of close to an Alvin Kamara in terms of what his passing game work might be.
I agree. Absolutely. What do you make of Conklin today? And if you guys have any questions, obviously hit us up. Chris Kennedy, actually, Jacoby's drinking it. Who's the number one receiver for the Pats? Probably Douglas, but this is a guy who didn't. It's probably Osborne or Douglas, but Douglas didn't have a reception or a target.
It could be Ramondre Stevenson.
You know, guess how many routes Antonio Gibson has run in 2 games without looking. I want you to take a guess.
So I have a lot of exposure to him in best ball, so I don't know the number other than knowing it's almost none.
Okay, so yeah, he's ran 6 routes.
Yeah, I drafted him late in best ball thinking that he could maybe play the pass catcher role that Stevenson did in the past. And it's working out because he's been involved in the running game. So like Gibson had 96 rushing yards last week, but like, this is not how I expected it to go. Or just Stevenson and Gibson get a decent amount of carries. And then just neither of them to this point have been massively involved in the passing. Gibson basically non-existent. Stevenson has 8 targets through 2 games. So he's live to be Stevenson, the number one, at least target for Brissett, if we're just talking about targets.
You're not wrong at all. I wanted to ask you about Conklin. Sorry, on the lot here, trying to get everyone involved who has questions. These are super chats as well. What do you think of Conklin today? Because I think he's just underpriced based on route participation and snap share.
I've right around 20% of him. So I'm right around even with the field. I'm not playing him at all in the captain spot. One thing about this game that kind of, when I run everything through the Sims, I think makes it not as necessary to get a punt play from the Jets is the Patriots are so shitty and their players are all so cheap. I have a bunch of lineups. Like I was going through my top Sim ROI lineups, and most of them are either 5-1 Jets lineups or 4-2 Jets lineups. And then the players that I'm playing from the Patriots are often very cheap options like Polk or maybe Demario Douglas at $4,200 in some of those lineups. So because my lineups are skewed so heavily towards Jets onslaughts, more often than not, my cheap plays is just a punt from the Patriots side of the game. And I think that squeezed Conklin a little bit.
Probably. Yeah, I could see that. I do like him though. He's just too cheap because there aren't really that many good cheap options today. Like if I were to ask you who you think the best cheap options are, this is a great question, actually. I'm interested to hear your answer. If you can't say defense and can't say kicker, because I think all 4 of them are very much in play. Greg Zuerlein today, I love. Mm-hmm. I like the Jets D a lot. You know, I have no problem with the Pats D. I have no problem with Joey Sly. All of these guys look really good. And I don't think anyone would argue that. But who are the best skill position players as far as just discount guys go?
What price point do you have in mind?
Yeah, so like Demario Douglas and lower, I think is a fair area.
Okay, yeah.
So not like total basement.
Yeah, so I don't have any like significant exposure to the super basement guys, kind of similar to Conklin. I don't find them to be overly necessary for this slate. But if I'm looking for the cheap guys that I get the most of, it is Polk, it's Demario Douglas, and it's Antonio Gibson.
Polk, Douglas, and Gibson. Okay. Yeah, sounds about right.
And none of them are all that popular. Douglas, right around 20% owned. Gibson right around 20% owned, and then Polk, he is ownership in like the mid-teens. So none of these guys are overly popular. And I think that if you're building lineups that are leaving maybe like $600-800 in salary on the table and has one of these guys in the lineup, it's going to be pretty unique.
Would you be willing to play Stevenson and Gibson or Allen and Hall in the same lineups?
Hall and Allen, yes. Stevenson and Gibson, it would be my preference not to. I haven't combed through all of my top lineups in the Sims. So like I'm not picking them out. I'm just kind of trusting that the correlation built into the Sims isn't giving me a lot of them together. I could check if I have any. But if I was like hand building a lineup or two, I would not have Gibson and Stevenson in the same lineup.
Okay. Trying to think. It is tough because there aren't enough outs there. I think I'd rather go Hall and Allen in the same lineup.
Yeah, They both got there last week, and that was on a main slate.
It's true. And I mean, obviously Allen for sure ran hot in the red zone, but still there's something to be said about that.
He looks good too.
He is good. Yeah, they got a sick backfield for sure. They got a real sick backfield. Yeah, the Hunter Henry thing, the price point is difficult to get to. I'm running the Sims right now, by the way. This will be my last run. Yeah, this will be my yeah. Are you in yet? Do you have your lineups in?
Yeah, I've got my lineups in. I've been tinkering around with it, and then I just copy and paste the lineups back over my CSV. Kind of like as we talk, I just, not like I'm making significant changes, but like gave like a 15% ROI boost to Jalen Polk, stuff like that, to just get me a little bit more exposure to the players I want.
Okay. Who is your highest exposed Patriot right now?
Ooh.
Outside of Stevenson. It'll be okay. Stevenson will be your number one.
Yeah. So it's Polk for me.
It is. How much?
So I have it with the caveat being it's like fairly close. I have Polk, Gibson, and Douglas all in about a third of my lineups. So overweight to all three of those guys.
Okay. All right. Mine would be, let's see. Well, Patriots. And then Antonio Gibson, actually.
You mean the defense?
I'm saying Patriots defense, yeah, it would be my highest outside of Ramondre.
Okay.
And then behind that, it would be Antonio Gibson and then Demario Douglas. But it's Gibson. Here's the funny thing. Gibson, Douglas, Osborne for me. Like I basically have the same amount of all of them. Like I'm basically around 15% on all of those guys. So yeah, which I'm okay with. Like I said,
I mean, it's totally reasonable to just mix and match some of these Patriots cheap guys. Like I took little stands on some of these guys that I just brought up before, but I mean, like I don't want to have like 50% of my lineups dedicated to Demario Douglas or anything like that.
Neither do I. Because, that's one of those spots where you could have a strong read on a guy, but you still have to account for the bad quarterback. You still have to account for the really bad matchup. You still have to account for, right? Like I could go down the list, right? You still have to account for the fact that they have 6 active receivers today, that they have Hunter Henry, who is another one of those. Like, you know who my highest owned flex player is right now? Greg Zuerlein.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to guess it, by the way. I was going to guess either him or the Jets defense.
Right. I'm not changing it. I'm fine with it.
My one concern with the Jets defense is I'm terrified they end up being crazy chalk.
Me too. I'm actually under the field on the Jets D, which that's actually what scares me.
I'm overweight to them, but I'm really nervous the contest is going to lock. They're going to be like 40% owned, and I'm going to feel like the biggest idiot on the planet.
I think you'll be all right. I even have some Greg Zuerlein in captain.
So we got that super chat somebody had asked that just came across where it's William Westry asked, oh no, that he asked about FanDuel. It was the one from Jamie Moore asked, are we aware of 2 kicker, 2 defenses ever won? If so, captain. I don't remember which games, but I do remember it happening multiple times. There's been some really shitty, like 9-6 Thursday night football games that have been all defenses and kickers.
I'll tell you which one it was. I remember this vividly. It was Matt Ryan and the Colts against Russell Wilson and the Broncos on Thursday Night Football. Remember the season a couple of years ago where Russell Wilson was on every primetime game? And that game had 0 touchdowns the whole game. The Broncos were up 9-6, and dumbass Nathaniel Hackett, or maybe it was Wilson, maybe it was a brain trust collaborative effort, decided that on like 3rd and 8 at their own 25, right? So put it this way. Matt Ryan was horrible in that game. Horrible. They couldn't get past the 50-yard line all game. Russell Wilson decided to throw it into the end zone and got picked off. and the Colts drove down the field, kicked the field goal, tied it, and won in overtime. And the guy that won the Millie had 0 QB, 2 defense, 2 kicker, and one of them was captain Greg. And he only played one lineup. It was a single bullet.
Okay, I vaguely remember this, and it left like $12,000 in
Yes.
salary on the table. Like it also had like a punt play in it on top of that.
Yes. Imagine your one entry. You're like, hey, fuck it. Like, we're going full out. And he wasn't wrong, though. Those are 2 terrible. You remember how bad those offenses were? They were terrible. And I'm pretty sure that's when Jonathan Taylor was out anyway.
Yeah, and you are also right. Russell Wilson's first year in Denver, where they were one of the Super Bowl favorites coming into the year. I remember
they had the 6 shortest odds to be the highest scoring team going into the season.
Yeah, I remember too. I remember watching this video too, where Matt Kalish, one of the higher ups at DraftKings, I remember when he was still doing his content with the Gary V. Yeah, when he was doing stuff with Gary V. I remember they were doing a video on their preseason picks, and I remember Kalish had picked Russell Wilson for MVP like 14-1 that year. He didn't end up winning MVP or coming anywhere close to it. But I remember there was like crazy hype on Russell Wilson in Denver. And then like 6 of the first 8 weeks of the season or something like that, you had Russell Wilson, the Broncos in primetime, and all of the games were just total dog shit.
Terrible. I don't think I've ever had a team where I've bet the under on them every week as much as I did with that team. Really. And every week it hit. They were just terrible. And the defense was good that year. Yeah. Remember that vividly. Anyway. Any more super chats before we keep going here?
Yeah, there's a couple of other ones that came across. I saw the one from William Westry, wants to know top plays for FanDuel. This is, to me, a really tricky FanDuel slate because Breece Hall is so popular in the MVP spot. We got him projected for nearly 40% ownership. So almost half of the field's lineups are going to have Breece Hall. These are the slates I hate for FanDuel, because he's so overwhelmingly likely, especially with FanDuel scoring, to be the top overall scoring player, that you're stuck in the situation where it's like, do I play Breece Hall and dupe the field a bunch? Or do I play a bunch of lineups that don't have Breece Hall, where if Breece Hall is the highest scorer, all of those lineups are just dead. They end up not cashing at all. So the way that I do prefer, and I am only playing on DraftKings actually because of that Breece Hall situation, but if I was entering the lineups on FanDuel, just looking at the exposure I have from the Sims I ran, I would be focusing on playing Ramondre Stevenson and Jacoby Brissett in the MVP spot, and it would be solely because of ownership. It's just hard for me to justify entering lineups with Breece Hall where they're just going to be duped so many times.
I hear you. No, I get it. They're going to be, mega duped. We had a comment from Devin. What's up, Devin? Said Mike Williams could have 4 for 55 with 2 touchdowns easy. He could, or he could have 0 for 0. That's what I like about him, though. That's what I like about Mike Williams today.
Like it's kind of like a different scenario, but it's like when we talked about HN last week, where it's like short week, was on the injury report, had limited practice, and we're like, there's only 2 outcomes here. Obviously, there's stuff in between, but we thought there was like 2 extreme outcomes were most likely. Either he was going to be limited and was ultimately not going to be able to have a ceiling game because of that, or he was just going to get fed by the Dolphins, which ended up happening to like a dumb degree where he was playing in garbage time for some reason when the game was a blowout. So, I mean, you could make similar sorts of comparisons to him and Mike Williams.
You could. JJ said, I still don't get the Mike Williams hype. He's been dust for years. That's what's great about this, man. That's what's great about this. We can have different opinions, but I totally disagree that he's been dust for years. Like last year, he played 3 games, 2.5 games, Greg. He had 250 receiving yards, 19 receptions and a touchdown through 2.5 games. Like the guy, I would not consider him dust. And that was alongside Keenan Allen. So he might be dust. Totally possible. That's possible. But he's 29. Like he's not. I wouldn't say, I don't think it's fair to look at his track record and say that when he's healthy, he's dust. That's just not true.
No, the the issues that you would have with Mike Williams, because he was good the last time we saw him playing, it's that he hasn't played all that much for a very long time because he had the ACL injury. The last time we saw him play, he was certainly not washed. Is he washed after the surgery? Exactly. We don't know. Only time will tell.
We have no clue, which is why I'm willing to take some shots. My day will not be entirely decided by Mike Williams, and I would suggest that you do the same thing. You don't want to just have all of the Mike Williams. Hold on a second, Greg. Let's see. I am clearly over the field on Mike Williams. Don't get me wrong. I'm 2x the field, but I'm not like I have 100% or anything. So
he's not all that popular. What do we have him projected for? Like
18 or something?
Yeah, he is.
I have about 38%.
You've got Mike Williams is 15% owned on FanDuel and on DraftKings 18% owned.
Yeah. By the way, guys, if you still want to use these tools, I always recommend, jumping in on Thursdays. You have Thursday, you have Sunday, you have Monday, or even tomorrow. You got the Monday doubleheader. So you're going to have 2 huge showdown contests. You're going to have a huge, dude, that main slate's got to be a milli maker. There's no doubt in my mind. They have to. Greg, for a doubleheader on Monday night?
Yeah, it'll be one of those ones that's like a $2.5 million prize pool, $1 million to first place. That'll probably be what it is.
Links in the description too. And we've consolidated. You no longer have to decide like which one of the 8 links you want to click. Click this one, even if you just want to browse and be like, hey, maybe there's something for me. You can toggle from monthly to weekly. That's literally the only button you have to click to figure out what you want. You can see what's included in every package. And 3 of the 4 have the single lineup sim that I know you guys have been loving. We've been loving it, where you hand build lineups and you get instant results, instant feedback on those. We sim it against the field and give you instant simmed ROI on that. Win percentage, top 10 percentage, top 1% percentage, all of that. Jordan's got it up on the screen now. And the sims that Greg and I would assume you ran it. I used it. I use sims for Showdown religiously because, as Ben always says, he'd be horrible at Showdown. He wouldn't even play it otherwise. But I think the sims has actually been better for Showdown. And this is anecdotal evidence, but for me, so good for Showdown that I don't think there's anything that comes close to it.
It has a process for weeding out dupes, which is the most important thing that I think you do for Showdown. Is just, there might be a lineup you really like and you're like, oh, look, I'm getting all the players I want. And then you go and look at the contents like, oh, well, 300 other people ended up playing this lineup. And that will take out some of those lineups for you. And it'll give you, and you could customize it too, where like for myself, I wanted more exposure to poke. I gave him an ROI boost, but it's going to give me more lineups with poke that project to be the best, and it will weed out some of those dupes. So if you don't have a good process for playing Showdown and not play heavily duped lineups, this is going to really improve your Showdown process.
In a huge way. Yeah, in a huge way. You guys, plus you get ownership, top stacks, boom bust, player projections. If you play on DraftKings Pick 6, use our tools for that. We have the optimizer and we have the screenshots rolling in left and right. Pick 6, prize picks, underdog, all of those for that, including the post-contest sim. I would say, I'm not going to rattle them all off. Go in and check it out for yourself, because there's going to be like 10 different tools that you can use every single day for sure. But you'll see one link in the description. Click that and look around. And if there's nothing else, join our Discord as well. When you there's a lot of people that get subs and don't join the Discord. That's where you can ask questions to guys like Greg and Steve Buzzard and all these guys that do office hours and AMAs, and a great community. Also, you're getting first tests and cracks at all of our new tools and all of that stuff. So if you're not in the Discord, definitely join it. All right. Jake said, don't sleep on Braelon Allen. I don't think anyone is, honestly, after last game. I don't think anyone's sleeping on Braelon Allen at all.
No, he's got ownership.
22% in the flex.
Even on FanDuel, where he's 10,000, you've got Braylon Edwards 16% owned in the flex spot over there as well. People are playing Braelon Allen. I don't think anybody's sleeping on him.
We right now, get this. So this is, you want to know how wildly ugly of a slate this is? We have, and I'm including kickers and defense, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, And if you include Hunter Henry, we have 11 guys between 18 and 24% flex ownership. That's a 6% difference. It's negligible. It's totally negligible. 11 players.
And it's because a lot of those guys are similar. I mean, between, but especially the Patriots pass catchers that are priced around there. Like I'm taking stands based on, like some of the reports we had on Poke earlier, but I can't confidently say that I know for certain that Poke is a way better option than, like a DeMario Douglas or any of the other guys priced around here. They project similarly.
People were talking about this Otani game. I just looked it up. Oh my God. Did you see it?
Yeah. So he entered the 50-50 club. First player ever in baseball history, 50 homers, 50 stolen bases. And he did it in style today. He had 3 homers and 2 stolen bases. I'm fairly sure he scored the most fantasy points I've ever seen somebody score on an MLB slate.
Yeah, dude, he had 6 for 6 with 4 runs, 10 RBIs, 3 homers, 2 doubles, and 2 stolen bases. Well, I didn't play. Who played MLB today? Was he on one of the main, like early or main?
Yeah, I didn't play the early slate because I was busy doing other work, but I was just kind of eyeing it. I think he ended up scoring, it was 110 FanDuel fantasy points.
Okay. And Chris Williams said 81 fantasy points. I assume that's DraftKings. 81. Yeah. Oh my God. Holy shit.
It's a big NBA game.
It's a huge NBA game. That's like a big Jokic triple-double game. What would it take? All right. So we still got 1,900 people watching. By the way, if you're not rocking the Stochastic avatar, stochastic.com/HOF. Do yourself a huge favor because you can win up to 3 times every year, and you can win Sims All Access Max. You can win $200 just for winning once, even if it's a 5-cent entry. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet your wins to us. It's Stochastic HOF. You're still getting a $200 value Sims Max package. We see people win $30 and get a $200 package, and now they're using that tool in the fucking like Quarter Arcade, which is just a cheat code. Win twice, get a free month, and then a free week of whatever else you want. Win 3 times, get a month of Sims All Access, and win 20K plus and get that beautiful Stochastic engraved ring commemorating. Look at those beauties, commemorating your win. So, stochastic.com/HOF. The dog picture's cute, but it's not going to make you any extra money. This will. A lot of it. So rock one of those beautiful 6 Stochastic avatars. Okay. I have a question for you guys.
Sorry. We had a few super chats. So
go ahead.
Yeah, just because we got 9 minutes left to answer some of these. This is a simple one. Chris Williams just said, time again, atone for your sins, bring yourself some good karma. So yeah, if you guys haven't done it, like, follow, subscribe, listen to Chris. We're only like a week or 2 away from having 100,000 subs on the YouTube channel. And I'm really curious on this one because Riley Cooper 14 says, Josh, I went to my first Eagles game on Monday, and I want to know which of us do you think is Josh? Myself, Laufey, or Jordan, who probably has the most striking resemblance to Josh Engelman. So I'm curious to know who he thinks is Josh.
He probably thinks it's me because he's saying he went to his first Eagles game, which would be odd because Riley Cooper played for the Eagles.
It's true. It's true. There was some controversy around him as well, but yeah, he was on the Eagles.
Yeah, a little country concert.
Yeah.
What would it take? Go ahead.
And then Malcolm Revamp says, which way? 4-2, 3-3, or 5-1 tonight? My most common lineup build is 4-2 Jets, but I have a lot of 5-1 Jets as well. I have, of my top 150 lineups, I have less than 10 that are heavier on the Patriots side.
Same. And I have few 3-3s as well, not a ton. And my guess is that a lot of those 3-3s I have are going to be like Joey Sly or Patriots defense in there as well. For a guy to have 81 DraftKings points in an NFL game, is it doable?
It would have taken Alvin Kamara to replicate his first half and the second half last game. Because I think Kamara had 40 fantasy points at the half on Sunday, if I remember correctly.
Let's see if StatMuse can pull it up.
Another one who looked like he was going to have an insane game, Marvin Harrison on Sunday. He had, I think it was 33 or 34 fantasy points in the first quarter, and then just didn't do much the rest of the game. But yeah, you need just an outlandish sort of game. You need, so let's see, if somebody had 200 receiving yards and 10 receptions, I mean, that's 30 fantasy points plus the bonuses. And then it's not really doable.
The most recent one within the past 2 decades is my favorite player ever, Jamal Charles against Oakland. I remember that game really well. He had 195 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. I mean, that just can't be right. That's got to be backwards. 20 rushing yards.
Waylon Ethan Jennings in the chat said 200 combo yards, 10 catches, 6 touchdowns. That doesn't even come that close.
Really?
No. So if you had 200 yards, that's 20 fantasy points. 10 catches, that's another right? 10. It puts you at 69. 30.
He's 69.
Yeah, like that's still a decent. It's still a decent amount. You need another 120 yards.
Crazy, or 2 more touchdowns.
Yeah, 8 touch. Like what's? I think 300 yards is more realistic than 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, this is insane. But honestly, what you saw from Otani today, it's a little bit different, sure, because you have like 14-point home runs, but even so. Like what he did is it the best fantasy game ever of any sport? I think it might be.
I'm trying to think if there's like a pitcher that had a perfect game that would have scored some insane amount of fantasy points.
I still don't think so. I still don't think. I feel like Otani might have had the best like DFS game ever.
Could be. There was the Luka game where Luka scored like 115 fantasy points.
I still don't even know if that's like, I mean, that's incredible, but 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 10 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases is insane.
All right, I'm going to ask StatMuse, what is the most MLB DraftKings points scored by a pitcher?
StatMuse is weird with DraftKings points for pitchers, by the way. It's going to give you like regular players. At least it did last time I tried it like a couple months ago. Anyway, I think it's like, it might be the best ever. Crazy. And while Greg looks this up, just throwing this out there one more time, guys, don't hesitate to get to defense. Don't hesitate to get to kickers. It could be a surprisingly high scoring game, and then it just is what it is. But it's also possible that when you've got a 38.5 point total on a short rest with 2 offenses that haven't clicked yet, 2 defenses that play well, that, you know, if the night came to an end and Jets defense was the optimal captain, or Greg Zuerlein was the optimal captain, even Patriots, it would not shock me all that much. So just throwing it out there. And ownership on Jets is 2% in captain. Zuerlein is 0.9%. If there were ever a game where I would recommend at least considering it, then this is it.
The most DraftKings points prior to today was 76 by Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, like this is it. This is it. I'm telling you, this is the best thing we've ever seen.
I wonder, like way back in the day, because remember there used to be pitchers that would throw like 20 innings in games.
Yeah, maybe.
And then the recovery was like a couple of cigarettes. There wasn't even ice baths or anything like that.
Yeah,
I wonder if there would be some crazy outlier games if you looked at some of those numbers where it's like, hey, this guy pitched, 20 shutout innings or something like that one start. But pitchers also didn't get strikeouts then. So,
and if you wanted to use the Wilt Chamberlain games, fine, but that was in a gym. That was in like a gym against rec. I don't know. Either way.
It's also not on video.
It's also not on video. I have a piece of the court from that game. When the Sixers were really bad, they would incentivize anyone to go to games. And when I was a drug and alcohol counselor, I took a bunch of the kids there that I worked with. And there was like first however many people get this piece of floor. So we all got like a piece of floor, you know, thing from Wilt's 100-point game. And I turn around and I see these kids counting cash. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? They had sold them that quick. I turn around and they sold them. So now I took their money. I let them keep it, but I took their money for the night because you can't let, you know, kids in drug rehab walk around with cash at a random game. So I put it in their safe. They got it when they went home. But yeah, they were giving everything and anything out to get people to go to those games. If you remember, those tank years were as bad as they possibly get for Philly.
It's like the equivalent of the Panthers this year.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
The difference is at least there was a plan. There was a long-term goal for the Sixers to lose, accumulate draft picks. The Panthers, it's just like we show up, we play football, we get killed, and just something's going to happen. The next, like there's no plan forward for the Panthers at all.
It's probably the equivalent of the White Sox this year.
Yeah, although the White Sox also have a shitty farm system, so it's true.
But I just mean as far as like how bad they were that year. The White Sox were horrid.
Yeah, anyway. White Sox terrible. It's probably a good comp because the Panthers also. I mean, like who are the good young players on the Panthers? Well, they took Bryce Young, #1 overall last year, and they paid up and spent resources for him, and now they're done with him after 1 year and a couple of games.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys as always. Fun show, man. I don't care how bad these games are. Sometimes they're more fun to talk about.
Not this one, but I know what you mean. The only reason I don't like this one is because I have no clue who I'm supposed to be rostering from the Patriots. I did my best.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. You are awesome. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Like I said, you want to check out anything, link in the description. Check out all those packages. Plus Pick 6, man. We've got the Pick 6 optimizer. It's winning people a lot of money. And follow Greg at Ehrenberg DFS, me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Oh, we got the Sim Strategy show. I look forward to that.
Yep, tomorrow morning, Laffy and I Sim Strategy show at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh yeah, man. We'll see you guys there. Peace.